But first, Taylor Swift is now the proud owner of her entire catalog of music, about 6 years after publicly speaking out against the sale of her master's recordings by her former record label. The music mogul announced the news in a letter today, writing, "All of the music I've ever made now belongs to me." Swift purchased her music outright with no strings attached from Shamrock Capital, a private equity company that had acquired her masters. Tessa Bennett joins us in studio with the details. Tessa?
Yeah, Manisa, it seems like some good karma has come around for Taylor Swift. After she left Big Machine Records in 2019, where she recorded her first 6 albums, producer Scooter Braun acquired them, giving him control over most of her work. It sparked a series of re-recordings of her music over the past few years, and now Swift says this is her greatest dream come true. Well, Taylor Swift can finally say "You Belong With Me" to the master recordings of her first 6 albums. The Grammy-winning singer announced the news on social media today that she's finally bought back her original music catalog, giving her control over all of her albums. Swift was able to buy back the ownership to her music following the massive success of her years-long worldwide Eras tour, the singer says. You got that In an emotional statement posted to her website, Swift recounts bursting into tears upon finding out a deal went through, calling it her greatest dream come true.
Well, I think it sends a really big message, and I think, she herself is talking about the ways in which, she thinks even the initial idea of re-recording her music kind of changed the way young musicians think about the ownership of their musical recordings, their production, their work.
The fight for ownership over her music catalog began back in 2019, when the master recordings of her first 6 albums were sold to producer Scooter Braun and later Shamrock Capital, following Swift's departure from Big Machine Records.
There are, broadly speaking, 2 kinds of record deals. There's your traditional record deal where the record label owns the master recording, so literally owns those recordings that you make of those songs. And then sometimes there's license deals where the artist owns those masters and licenses them to the record.
At the time, the singer shared a lengthy post online expressing frustration with the situation, saying she'd fought for years for a chance to own her own work prior to the master recordings being sold.
When you sign a record deal, if it's that kind where the record label just owns the recordings, you don't really necessarily have a lot of say as an artist. A lot of these deals basically allow the record label to exploit those recordings however they might like, to sell them to whoever they might want.
In an effort to regain control over her works, Swift pledged to re-record each of those 6 albums after her negotiations with Braun had failed at the time.
Someone like Taylor Swift has tons of leverage, so to the extent she is signing a deal where she's licensing or selling those rights, she can probably sign a much better deal than the one she signed way back when.
Swift went on to re-release what she dubbed Taylor's version of albums Red, Speak Now, Fearless, and 1989. And fans got a special treat with each album re-release, as the singer tacked on a number of previously unreleased songs coined from the vault.
It was sort of like you were re-getting Taylor Swift, a moment of Taylor Swift's professional past, again, her artistic production kind of like being renewed in a certain kind of way, and then there was this value added to it with the bonus tracks.
Per CNN, producer Scooter Braun says he's happy for her following the news of her sale. Now, for Swifties still waiting on a Taylor's version of Reputation and her self-titled album, well, there's more waiting to be done. The artist said today the albums will have their moments to reemerge when the time is right.